What's up guys, and welcome back to Tech Plant. Today we have another Pothos experiment, and this time I'm going to try and take hydroponic principles and apply it to propagation. Let's see how it turned out. Well, like all my Pothos experiment videos, we're going to need a big pothos vine to start chopping up, so we have subjects for the experiment. If you haven't seen any of my past videos, in order to propagate pothos, you're going to need an actual growth node, and those are usually accompanied by a leaf where it kind of sprouts out, and usually there's also some roots coming out of that area too. However, air roots aren't indicative of an actual node and they can appear elsewhere on the vine. To be safe though, look where the leaf is coming out and just cut about 1.5 inches away on either side of the leaf where it's coming out from the vine. I separated them into two groups. One is going to be just plain water and one is going to be water with an air stone. So to get my water one going, I just kind of put them in the jar and I filled it up with water so it was over the nodes so the nodes can begin to start rooting. The reason I'm using an air stone is I'm trying to mimic hydroponics. I've grown lettuce and other vegetables like this before. So basically what this does is it puts a ton of oxygen into the water, and I'm hoping that'll aid in the root growth and prevent root rot from occurring. This is going to run 24/7, and I'm going to have this under lights for about 15 hours a day. I do not change the water in any of these experiments, I just top it off with additional water. Alright, so I let about 15 days lapse, so let's take a look at our plain control, which is just plain water, and let's see how they're doing. So far it looks like typical performance for water. We have some decent sized roots, along with a few little new spikes on some of the vines. If we take an even closer look, you can pretty much see that there's a new growth point coming out of the nodes on most of them, and the roots are pretty healthy. They're still kind of flimsy though, because again, when they grow in water, the roots are usually kind of noodly. Now let's actually compare this with our air stone plants and let's see how they're doing. From initial impressions, it doesn't look any different really. I guess I was expecting a little more difference, but maybe it doesn't matter too much. Looking closer though, I can see that the roots are a little thicker and they're a little stubbier. I think maybe the water agitation is causing the roots to just be a little stronger and a little shorter. They might already be getting plenty of oxygen because the container I have them in is so wide that there's plenty of surface area on top of the water for oxygen and other things to dissolve back into it. So maybe the air stone is completely unnecessary, but let's wait a little longer and see what happens next. So here we are at almost an entire month since cutting, and you can see just from the jar there's plenty of roots, and this is just our basic normal water control group. Two of the cuttings have actually a pretty large growth spike, which is already rooting some of the secondary nodes that are coming out, but the rest of them have a pretty small growth spike. They have plenty of roots though, so they do look pretty good, and I would definitely pot these up. Let's take a look at the air stone one and kind of see how the differences compare. Again, this is almost a month later since I took a cutting, and you can see kind of from the initial impressions, there's not much of a big difference. I do see about double of the longer spike growth, so we do have about 4 cuttings with much longer spikes, while the other ones seem to be pretty similar to our other cuttings in just the control group. I don't see any crazy difference or very obvious difference where I could conclude that one is better or the other for the root growth. It seems about the same across both. However, the only thing I can see that is different is the air stones seem to produce a little bit more growth in the new spikes that were coming out. We did have about double the amount of cuttings that did have 1 or 2 additional nodes growing out and rooting at the same time, so it did seem to perform a little better. These are all ready to pot up though, so I will get them in a pot and just grow them out for more experiments. As I kind of build up a library of different experimental videos that I've done, I do want to try and do some combination experiments to see if we can get even more growth by combining two. I do not want to give up on this air stone. I've seen it do wonders for other vegetables and things. So maybe just with a little nutrients and the air stone we can get crazy growth. I don't know. I definitely want to experiment more and kind of start combining things and see if we can find the best possible way to propagate. Well guys, that pretty much sums up this video. I'm sorry the results were not extreme or really awesome. They were kind of mediocre, but that's all part of experimenting and kind of seeing what works. I do have some other experiments on the line like soil versus water. I want to try rooting hormone, and there's a few others I can't think of off the top of my head. But if you guys have suggestions for different experiments, please let me know in the comments. I'll definitely try it out and make a video about it. As always guys, may your plants grow strong and healthy. I'll see you next time.